So that's what you want to do. You want to say, what is the knowledge that I've got? What's the experience I've got? What are the skills I've got? And then, of course, I added this in the conversation too. I said, and I know all of the people that we need to have available to bring into this as operators and to sell. And he was like, Absolutely." So one of the places that kind of sticking with this, how are we going to find clients? I really want you to know that you've got to think about who you already know to make this happen faster. Okay. We can go cold start, and we're going to talk about that too. But it would be absolutely irresponsible to ignore the people that you've already got. Okay. One of the best things that I think you can do is think about, what is your outgoing message that you can post on social, or that you could send as a text to the people that you already know that could potentially generate consulting clients? So the first and easiest thing that you could do is anybody who is already asking for help. And I think we covered that pretty well in the last couple of videos. So anybody who's asking for help, we respond with our text replacement and we give them the pitch. And I went through a few examples of how that's been able to turn into money. The other thing that you can do is you can follow up with anybody who has contacted you recently about doing any kind of deal. So this is a little different in that if somebody asks for help, we have the HDC. We have the way I do that is, and go into whatever consult, or we send them to Volley, right? We do the VolleyCon, which was the Volley consultant text replacement. But you can also prompt people to come back into the world of having a discussion about what they're doing simply by being curious. So that's just to follow up on the people who have asked you about something, or that you know are working on something, or that you haven't touched base with in a little while. And so the few things that I think you can do to do that is know who those people are, and then have a message that you can send them. So knowing who they are, the way that I do that, I miss so many texts and emails and direct messages that come in because I'm scrolling through and I'll click on them and it'll go from the little blue dot or whatever it is that indicates they're new to having been read, and then I'll get distracted or something else will come, or I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff and I looked at it and I clicked on it to read it, see if it was urgent or something like that. And then I go on and I do the next thing, and I just go on living my life and I don't ever follow up. So what I do, knowing that is how things work for me, is every 2 to 4 weeks, I'll go through all of the most recent. So on the phone, I'll click the little text message icon, and I'll open my text messages, and then I'll just scroll through all the texts that I've got, and I'll go back probably 300-400 texts, just because there are so many and that I haven't, they might be read, so they're not showing up as new, so they're hard to find. But if I go through, I'll remember things that these people are doing. So if I'm scrolling through, let me go down a little bit in my text. If I scroll through, I see that one of my business partners, Steve, introduced me to somebody named Randall, and I need to follow up with that. And I do need to follow up with it because it's rude not to, right? I see that, what else? Let's see, in the middle of a bunch. I've got a person on a deal that we were talking about a potential acquisition that they were doing, who I can reach out to now. Let's see, that's on an accounting I've got a guy who asked me to be an advisor to one of his funds. And he reached out and just said, "Hey, what's going on? I need to follow up with that." I've got somebody else that's talking about a real estate deal. And I'm just looking here, like right now in these last couple of texts that mentioned that they were selling their company, that, what is this, is that I referred to somebody else to work with. I can reach out to them. So the thing to do is just go through, and your phone texts, your voicemails, your messages on LinkedIn, your DMs, direct messages on Instagram, messages that you might have on TikTok, or replies that you've got, or to your videos on YouTube, just any place, your Facebook Messenger account, your WhatsApp, right? All of those places that you are having communications with people have lists of all the people that you have had interactions with. So that's the contact list, or that's our prospect list, right? For this exercise. And go through all of those different things, find all of the people that you've had any kind of conversation with, and just send them a message and say, hey, was just thinking about you, wanted to see how everything is going with, and then you can either personalize it, or if you want to just do a text replacement, you can say, wanted to check in and see how everything is going with your deal, or how everything is going with you. What's happening, right? That's simple. That'll generate, you could probably find 50 people across all your social networks, all your messaging apps, your phone texts, and your voicemail that you'll be able to reach out to and do that. And that will start conversations. Then, when they start telling you about what they're doing, you can either do one of two things. It will either lead to them saying, hey, now that you mention it, I want to run it by you, or I want to get your advice, or whatever. And then you can suggest, the way that I do is with the consult. So you can go ahead and send them to Volley, or you can send them directly to have a conversation about a consult with you. Okay. The second thing that might happen is that there isn't a I want to pick your brain kind of thing that leads naturally to that, but instead they say something that will lead to you having some ideas that could be helpful for them, because you as a consultant have knowledge, skills, experience, and connections. Those are the four types primarily of relational capital that you're going to bring to any consulting deal. So what you want to do is, when they say what they're doing, think to yourself, is there any knowledge that I've got that I could suggest things that they might be able to do to have greater success with whatever they're working on? Is there any experience that I've got that I could bring to the table? Is there any, we have knowledge, skills, are there any skills in particular you have that would be valuable to them in doing that? And then experience, is there any experience that you can share with them about, hey, the last time that I did a deal like that, blankety blank. I'll give you a great example of this. So I was talking with someone recently who had gotten into a very cool deal, and it's a finance and fintech, financial technology play. And they were talking about it with respect to a particular target market. And they had reached out to one of my business partners and made a deal to provide this financial service to the customers of the company I own with my other business partner. And this person's a business partner too. So this is like, how do you connect the people that you're already in deals with is a big part of adding value. But he came and he was just saying, I just did a deal with these guys. Now, I'm not directly involved in either of those businesses. And this one business that he had hooked up with, he got an equity interest in, but I have nothing, right? It wasn't through the deal that we have together. So this is an independent opportunity that he got involved in and got equity in and invested cash in. Okay. So now I'm saying, this is really great. Really love what you're doing with that. I was very excited about it. I'm like, this is a giant opportunity. So I don't have any interest now, and he hasn't asked me to be involved. In fact, he has gotten into that deal and did not ask me to be involved. Selfish, very selfish. So when I'm talking to him, I'm thinking, how can I add value so that this can lead to me being invited to be part of this deal? Or how can I insinuate myself in the most positive and helpful way into the deal? So I started with my knowledge. And this is how I put, like, my framework for how do I get myself involved in a deal goes through this process. So I started with my knowledge and I said, okay, what do I know about this financial space that he's got? And I said, I drew on my knowledge and I was like, oh, that's really cool. One of the things that is really important in that is this. And I know that there are people that are doing this and this in that space too. Is that something that you've thought of? And he's like, no, I hadn't thought of that stuff, but that's really cool. Then I said, what is my experience? And I said, yeah, I've done a whole lot of deals and I've never found a situation where I couldn't add value. And I just invited myself in at that point. I said, I would love to help you with that deal and be involved as an equity partner. And he knows my experience. If he didn't, I would have just said it. But I did remind him. I was like, remember when I did this and this? Like, my experience is my track record. So I said, in a similar deal, I did this. And then I give them suggestions and ideas, right? And as a matter of fact, there was one huge oversight that was in this deal that they hadn't thought of. None of the people that were going in had thought of that actually dramatically expands the value of the company. And so I was like, I shared that with him. I didn't hold that back. I didn't say you have to hire me to do that. So because this is where I'm selling myself to be invited, right? This is just one example of the things I can bring. So I come up with the Mac Daddiest one I can think of. So I said, here, have you thought about applying this here and here? One of the things that you're going to want to do is structure the company like this, vest the intellectual property here, create a license agreement for this vertical because you have multiple other verticals that you can go into. And he was like, holy crap, I didn't even think of that. Like that I would have missed all of that. And he would have. And the time to do this is now. And I said, yeah, you got to get that set up right away. And I said, this is the kind of value that I bring when I come in. And I really would love the opportunity to work with you guys in that company. And he said, absolutely. I will either give you part of my equity because I know you're going to make this that much more valuable, or I'll talk with the other people and we'll figure out a way to make that happen. So then he, on his own initiative, said, when would you like to do that? Because you always want to push for the action step. And he said, why don't we do it? We're recording a podcast on Friday. This was, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday. We're recording a podcast, me and we're recording a podcast on Friday. Let me set up a call. Let me introduce you via text to the principals, and then let me set up a call with everybody right after we do our podcast. So now we got a call scheduled to have an exploratory conversation where he will be pushing me and say, just one of the things that he already thought of is going to change the face of this company. And we need to have Roland involved in this, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to say, what is the knowledge that I've got? What's the experience I've got? What are the skills I've got? And then, of course, I added this in the conversation too. I said, and I know all of the people that we need to have available to bring into this as operators and to sell. And he was like, absolutely. And so then connections, knowledge, skills, experience, and connections. So run through an audit as you're going through your phone, your email, all your contacts and your DMs, etc., and say, how can my knowledge, how can my experience, how can my skills, and how can my connections help this person? When they're responding, like after you reach out and say, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to check in. What are you working on right now? What are you most excited about? That's a really great question. My wife, I stole that from there. What are you most excited about right now? It's a great interview question. They're going to tell you. Then you can say, how can I add value to what they just told me they're doing? What is the knowledge I've got? What's the experience I've got? What are the skills I've got? What are the connections that I've got that I can give this person to show them that I can add tremendous, overwhelming value? And then, as I did, if they don't offer, ask for equity or ask for a consult or tell them, you know what, and this is another thing that I'll do very often. I say, wow, what you're working on is really exciting. I would love the opportunity to do a deep dive with you. I think that I've got some ideas and some connections that could really help. And then you can offer an outline or just say, for example, and then just give them one of the ideas that you've got. But that's a really great way to have them then get engaged and say, I really think that what we should do is we should do a consult. And I had another example of this. One of the gentlemen that I know who is in the printing industry, does large printing jobs, commercial printing. And he was talking to me about masterminds. And he said, I'm trying to figure out if I should join this mastermind, not mine, somebody else's. And he had been a member of my masterminds before. And we're just talking. And I said, what is it that you're hoping to get out of that? And he said, hey, I paid a sponsor and then I go and I hope I get some clients. But after I've been a couple of times, I can get all the business I'm going to get. It's not really a large amount of business. And I said, who is your ideal client? And he told me my ideal client is a large volume, repetitive printing kind of situation. For example, what was the example he used? Like a sheet music printing company. And I said, okay, if you identify the criteria of your ideal customer profile, then is it the person who's attending the average mastermind? And he's like, sometimes. And I said, so that's a kind of an ad hoc hit or miss strategy that you've got going. What I think would be very helpful to you would be, what if you could build a funnel that was specifically designed to acquire your ideal customer so that you just had those people coming in? It's like, that would be amazing. Like, that's absolutely doable. And I've done that several times and I'd love to help you do that. What I'd really like to do is have the opportunity to help you and have you do a half day consult with me so that we can create the architecture of the ideal customer. We can create the funnel to generate that person, and we can take all of the money that you're spending to exhibit or sponsor these masterminds and events right now to maybe get one person, and we can invest a small fraction of that in working together to build something that will be a continual source of clients for you year after year after year. How does that sound? He's like, that sounds amazing. And so then that became a paid consulting client. Okay. Now, he didn't reach out to me asking, can you help me with this? He didn't reach out to me saying, I want to consult with you. He didn't even reach out saying, can I pick your brain? He touched base with me and I said, how's it going? And he said, I do this stuff with the masterminds and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, here's some good ideas. So the bottom line with this is, if you can generate conversations with people that you know have stuff going on, if you've got people who might be a great client for you, then reach out to them and ask them how things are going. And then use your knowledge, skills, experience, and connections framework to figure out how you can help them, and then offer an idea or two. And then either they will invite you to help them, or they'll say, can I pick your brain, or can we go to lunch, or whatever? And then you can say, auto text, the way I do that is. Or if they don't invite or ask, then you can say, I really would like the opportunity to help you with that. And the way I do that is, which is the auto text. Okay. So that's a ton of business that I promise you is sitting already in your email, in the texts that you send, in your WhatsApp groups, your social messaging groups, Facebook Messenger, in your direct messages, in LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all those places. Whatever you use, you have so many contacts. And if you'll just start a campaign to reach out to them, either generically or specifically, and just ask them what's going on, what they're excited about, what they're doing, and then follow that 4-part framework that I gave you, I think you're going to find that you get a ton of business. Okay. That's it for this video.